Love makes me treat you the way that I do. Gee, baby, ain't I good to you? There's nothing too good for a girl that's so true. Gee, baby, ain't I good to you? Bought you a fur coat for Christmas, a diamond ring, a Cadillac car, and everything. Love makes me treat you the way that I do. Gee, baby, ain't I good to you?
Greetings, peeps, and welcome to the second week of fall semester. I hope everybody had a bodacious Labor Day weekend and you got to go outside and have some fun, maybe visit the lake or do something fun just to be relaxed. So I hope you enjoyed yourself. And now it's time, sadly, for us to get back to work. So let's talk a little bit about music elements. Hopefully by now, everyone has purchased and registered their online text. I know it was a comedy of errors, lots of stuff that went wrong. I do apologize for all of the snafus. We do seem to be getting things ironed out now, so hopefully you are able to access it. If for some reason you are still unable to access your online text, please get in touch with me so that we can resolve that issue as quickly as possible. Okay, so section 1 is coming to about the midway point. It's almost over. It will end, right? We have until September 23rd to finish it. And keep in mind, we're talking about section 1, the keyboard on our online text. Keep in mind that this includes the quizzes also. So you got to have all of that completed by September 23rd. And you still got some time, so there's no need to panic. But if you haven't been looking at them, if you haven't been doing the practice worksheets and so forth, probably time that you got on that. I would also encourage you, if you have not already done so, to watch the introduction to keyboard vid, because that's something that I produced expressly for this course so that you could have one more opinion, one more idea, one more description of how things work on the keyboard in relationship to the notes on the staff. And in particular, what we're looking at is half steps and whole steps, and also that million-dollar word enharmonic. So I encourage you, watch that vid, and again, avail yourself to any outside resource you would like to that can further your knowledge in music theory. Honestly, I have no problem with anyone looking up outside of our online text to help them answer questions, help them get better grades on quizzes. There's nothing wrong with arming yourself with knowledge. I use this analogy. If I have a surgeon who's going to operate on me, and that surgeon comes to me and says, I am going to be taking a brief refresher course on this specific operation for you. This is an all online opportunity for me. There's some new techniques that we can try, and I would really like to brush up on these techniques. Well, am I going to say to this doctor, no, you can't do that. You've been to medical school, you've graduated, you should know all this stuff by heart. Of course not. I want the doctor to be armed with everything. I'd say the same thing to my mechanic. I want you to be armed with every bit of knowledge that you can to repair the issue or to repair me. So please, avail yourself to anything you like that's available to you, particularly on the internet. I do have on our e-learning site a module that's called Useful Stuff. I encourage you to take a look at it. It has our MUS 100 course pack in PDF form. All that is, it's the same stuff that we're learning on our online text, the same material that's being presented. It's just presented in a different way. And sometimes that helps. Sometimes it helps to have things just described to us in a different manner. So I encourage you, take a look at it. Another useful tool on that same module is the musictheory.net. Why not go there and take a look at it and see how things are explained through that process. So avail yourself to those tools. A little bit of a heads up. Section 2, the staff, opens up this Sunday, September 10th. So it starts. You've still got some time to finish it. And I realize some of these sections are overlapping, but that's okay. That's why I do it, to allow you time to work on more than one thing and to get it finished either beforehand or right on schedule. Okay, so we're going to take a look now at our online text, and I would like for you to join me in this little look. We're going to talk about how the online textbook is organized, and then we're going to come back and we're going to take a look at our e-learning site. So just bear in mind, however, if you are using a phone, your cell phone, your smartphone, to read your online text and to complete your assignments, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, please remember that your cell phone has a very small screen compared to that of a PC or a laptop. So you may not be seeing everything if you don't scroll down all the way, or if you don't scroll to the right or to the left all the way. So make sure that you're looking at the entire picture, the entire screen. Don't just shortchange yourself. You might be missing a whole row of questions, for example, or you might be missing a whole row of information. So please make sure you do that. Okay, so let's take a look at our online text. Okay, greetings, peeps. So here we are looking at navigating around our e-learning site, and then we will look at our online text as well. I know many of you, this is probably just, this is second nature to you by now, but just in case, for those that may have just joined us, or for any of you that might need some extra help getting around e-learning, obviously when you log on to e-learning and you click on our site, you will be brought to this homepage, and any news items will be here. I've said please try that textbook link again for those of you that have been having difficulty registering your online text. If you still are, I encourage you to clear your cache memory or your browser history and try the link again. But before we get into the online text, I'd like to bring to your attention some useful things that you might find useful. So if you take a look at our contents tab, excuse me, and this module, useful stuff, just come down here to useful stuff and click on it, and it'll bring you right to this page. You'll see here that we have some tools that I've added that you can use at your leisure, and one of them is called the Music 100 Course Pack, and this is a course pack I designed for my face-to-face students, but there's no reason why you can't use it as well. If you click on this, you'll be brought to a PDF file, and you can see here you can click on any area in here and it will bring you to that area, like major scales, for example. So I encourage you to make use of this resource, because sometimes, not that our book isn't wonderful, but sometimes our book just maybe not clarifying things enough. So it sometimes helps, I think, to have something explained in perhaps a different way. And I encourage you to look at the components of the music staff in particular, as that will be the next section of our text that we begin talking about. So just take a look at it. if you need. If you don't need it, obviously, you don't have to worry about that. I encourage you, though, if you are looking for some additional help and you can't wait for me to reply on an email, then this might be something for you to consider. Another source that you can use right away is called musictheory.net. And when you click on this link, you'll be brought to this page. Now, let me also say to you, you can see here where I have some multiple tabs kept open, okay? And I encourage you to do that. You can keep more than one tab open, and I'll explain a little bit more about why you should consider doing that in a moment. But just take a look at this page here. Notice at the top it has lessons, exercises, and tools. Well, if we take a look at the lessons tab, we can see, lo and behold, yes, this contains all of the things that we are going to be learning in this course from our online text, but explained again a little bit differently. For example, the things about the staff. Now you'll notice here it's got a staff, music staff drawn for you. It has descriptions here. All you have to do is press this little play button and it'll bring you to each topic. And it has graphic displays of what it's talking about. So this is a very useful tool, and I encourage you to take advantage of it, because it does talk about, again, all of the things that we are going to be talking about in this course, and indeed much, much more. So give yourself some advantages, especially if you're a first-time music reader. It's not something that comes natural to you. This might give you that added edge that you need. And then something else I was going to point out to you is, in addition to the lessons, it also has something called exercises. And if you click on the exercises, this is a very cool tool right here, note identification. You'll notice that it's displaying a note and it's asking you to tell what that note is. And if we come here to the correct note identification and we press it, it plays the note for us and it tells us, yes, indeed, we are correct. Let's do another one just like that. Again, as long as it's green is correct, but let's say instead of the correct note here, which is a D, we select E, it shows up in red, telling us that we're wrong. Doesn't mean we're going to fail a course or anything like that. It's just showing us that we've made an incorrect choice. The correct one would be D. Also, this tool is customizable. You can come up here to settings. You can ask it to play only natural numbers. You don't have to have any accidentals at all if you don't want to. And so if you come back to this test, you can completely reset it so that it is not using any sharps or flats. Just entirely up to you how you do it. So again, I encourage you, play around with it and see if it helps you. Okay, so let's get back to our own e-learning site, and once again, let's talk about our online text. So if we come down here to the online textbook module, we click on it, we can click on this link here. It should open up an entirely new window and bring us to our online textbook. And here we have all of the sections and the classes. You'll note that the sections are divided into classes, and we should have already gone through the note name recognition and the accidentals and the octave and of course the keyboard. If you have not already done this, that's okay. I do encourage you, however, to consider, let's go back to our e-learning site and go back to our contents tab, and notice here Section 1, the keyboard. If you click on that module, there is an assignment. It's not really an assignment, but it was at one time. There's a video for you to watch about the keyboard. So if you're unfamiliar with the piano keyboard at all, which by the way, we're simply using this as a reference tool. We're not asking anyone to learn how to play the piano, but it's an excellent reference tool. This will give you a guide. So I encourage you, please do take a look at that vid. Now back to our online text. Again, when we click on these modules in our online text, we have some tools available to us, namely this piano. And if you haven't played around with it, I encourage you to do so. It's very therapeutic, especially if you've had a long day. You can also bring this keyboard up anytime you see these symbols down here in the lower left-hand corner of your page. You click on the plus symbol and it brings up that same keyboard, and notice how when you hover over the notes, it gives you what those pitches are. So once again, I encourage you to look at your online text and make use of the tools that you have available to you. Something else you might want to consider is these little tools that appear throughout your text. For example, anytime you see something with a speaker, it means it has a sound bite in it for you to play. The question here is, the statement, excuse me, is saying that pitch number 1 is lower than pitch number 2. Now I bring this up for a couple of reasons. Number 1 is it is possible that you may not be able to distinguish between differentiation of pitches. This is not an uncommon issue with some people. We used to refer to it as tone deafness, but that is really a misnomer. It does not mean that the person is deaf to tones or deaf by any stretch of the imagination. It just simply means that your ear has either not been trained to hear the difference in pitches, or you just simply do not recognize them. And it is not something that is essential, let me say that again, not something that is essential to you passing this course, but it is something that you should work on. So I encourage you to make use of these little tools here that are being presented to you. Let's skip on down or skip over to the next page. And I wanted you to be aware of some other little tools that we have. Anytime you see a keyboard pop up in any shape or form, notice that it will be interactive. You can press the keys and notice how it is telling you what the notes are. This is identical to this keyboard, which does the same thing. The only difference is this keyboard, of course, is much smaller and it does not have all the fancy schmancy stuff on it. The reason that they do this is just to give you an idea of what music reading is all about. Notice here it says the first 7 letters of the alphabet A to G are used to identify the white keys on the keyboard. On a full-sized 88-note keyboard, the first key on the left corresponds to the letter A, and they are referring to this one way, way down here. Sometimes that's barely perceptible depending upon where you are and what type of piano you're playing. And then it talks about the 2 black key groups, okay? And then this is what I want you to really take a look at, these Show Me buttons. You click on the Show Me, and it's just showing you what is going on here with this respect to the 2 black key groups and the 3 black key groups. Now, essentially what should happen here is it should play this note D. And for some reason, it isn't doing that. So oftentimes what's happening is you have to clear your browser history or clear your cache memory. And I could do that right now, but It's not something that's really essential to what we're doing. If you want to do it, I do have an email into the C4E folks saying, hey, this is not playing like it should. Regardless, folks, it's just showing you where the keys are, and it's showing you their reference points as to where and what they sound like. Same thing is true here and true here. Notice how it did not play the B. I don't know why it didn't play the B, but there it is. So you have some tools available to you. That's the purpose of this little discourse here. So let's continue on. Again, I encourage you to make use of these, finding out what they are. And we have another one down here. Okay, so give yourself that opportunity, and here we go. 2 black key groups. It says the following interactive example summarizes the 3 key combinations that can produce half steps or semitones on the keyboard. Play these semitones after watching the presentation. Now, again, you try it on your own and at your own pace, but if you click on the Show Me, so this is showing you some half-step groupings from a black key to a white key, and from a white key to a black key, and then between 2 white keys. Now, soon enough, you're going to be learning about something called enharmonics, and that's going to have to do with those 2 white keys adjacent to each other, but there's also enharmonics that deal with these black keys. So just understand that's something that's coming up. Okay, so whole steps and half steps. You have some wonderful, wonderful tools here to train your ear if you're not used to hearing pitches. Now, again, I say, if you are incapable of hearing or distinguishing between pitches, do not panic. It is something that you can overcome, but it is not something that is going to keep you from passing the class. In this example, they're showing you what an ascending half step sounds like. Notice how it has a distinct closeness to it. And the descending, so the first note this time is going to be higher than the second note. And then a whole step ascending. This should sound wider apart than the half step. And then descending. So again, I encourage you to play around with these and get familiar with them, as familiar as you can. And then we're learning about accidentals and relating them to the keyboard. Once again, this is sort of an interactive piano keyboard. I'm not sure why the D above middle C is not working. It's working everywhere else. I don't know why. That's funny. But nevertheless, take a look at how the keyboard is laid out, and it is showing you all of the accidentals. Now, you can tell it to just only show the sharps, or you can tell it to show only the flats, or you can have it do both. So just so you are aware, that's what these things are. And here it tells all about sharps and flats and how they are positioned on the piano keyboard, what they are, talking about white keys as accidentals, talking about the natural keys. Okay, so once again, you're going to be learning about something called enharmonics, and I will leave it to your textbook to explain that, but just understand that's where it is. So here is that same little keyboard again that the D does not want to sound on, and you can play around with whole steps and with half steps at your leisure, however you want to do it. Okay? Now let's move ahead. Here we go. There's that $1 million fancy schmancy word called enharmonics. I'm going to let you read the definition and study it because it will come up. And then we're learning about some new accidental symbols like the double sharp and the double flat. We are also learning about enharmonics through the use of a keyboard. Now, the best way and simplest way I know to demonstrate for you what an enharmonic pitch is to look at a black key. This black key has two letter names associated with it, A sharp and B flat. And you might be thinking, well, how can this be? Well, if we go here to the note A, when we raise the pitch by 1/2 step, which is what a sharp does, we are indeed going to play A sharp. Now, don't worry about the B flat just yet. Just bear with me here. A to A sharp. Now, if we play the note adjacent to A, the white key adjacent to the right of it, which is B, and we decide we're going to flat B, we would then be playing this pitch because we're lowering it by 1/2 step. We'd be playing B flat. And your brain may be getting ready to explode now because you just played this key and it was A sharp. Well, that's what enharmonics are. A sharp and B flat are one and the same note. C and B are examples of this as well. B to C is a 1/2 step. That means that not only are you playing C, you are also playing B sharp. Similarly, if you lower the note C by 1/2 step, you are playing not only B, but you are playing C flat. And your text goes on to describe this phenomenon and shows how it is laid out on the piano keyboard. Okay, so let's move ahead. Talking about octave designation, I'm going to let you play around with this. But again, here, if you press Show Me, that is showing you where C3 is. There's C4. And in a minute, it should play C5, but there it is. Okay, so octave designation. If you look at a piano keyboard, let's just pull up the piano keyboard for a second. There are numerous Cs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There are 8 octaves on the piano keyboard. So when we say C4, we are talking about the one that's right in the middle of the keyboard or the 4th C over from the left. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I hope that sort of clarifies things for you with respect to what octave designation is. If we talk about any note between these octave markings, C4 and C5, every note up to the next C has that same octave designation. This would be D4, E4, F4, G4, and so on. So I'm going to let you, again, play around with the keyboard and its functionality on your own. Okay, now let's go on to the grand staff. And this is just a sneak preview because you're going to be learning about the staff in the next unit. But I would like for you to consider what it is before you begin to do things like the practice worksheet. Now you might notice here you have 8 attempts at the practice worksheet. At least I believe that's what it is. You can preview this and you can see how it is laid out. It says here, from the choices below, select the pitch that corresponds to the highlighted key. Well, this is the highlighted key. What is it? Well, if you happen to pay attention to the readings, you should know that before every grouping of 2 black keys is the note C. So that is indeed a C. And then it's asking, from the choices below, select the pitch that corresponds to the highlighted key. Well, in this case,
It's this key, and it should be either a sharp or a flat. So this could be D sharp or it could be E flat. In this case, E flat is not a choice, but D sharp is. And then let's go on to the next one. It's asking for the choices, and what is this note highlighted? This key could be either G flat or it could be F sharp. As F sharp isn't one of the choices, then it's got to be G flat. And going on and on and on and on. So I'm going to let you play around with this. Again, this is a practice worksheet or practice quiz. It is entirely up to you if you wish to indulge in it. Now, I should also tell you that you can see your score down here at the bottom once you have finished. If you hit next, it says answer saved. It'll tell you what you've done and if you are correct or not. Any wrong answers, I believe, are highlighted in red. Okay, folks, so I hope that this has been a helpful look at our online text, but let's think one more time about what I was saying before with respect to the online text and keeping multi-tabs open. Notice that if you come to this, come to a module in our online text and you're talking about, the keyboard and pitch, or if you're coming to a quiz and it's asking you about specific notes, you could keep this browser open and you can look here. You can go to the home button, pull up the lessons or pull up the exercises and use these as guides or helps. You could also go to our e-learning site. We could pull up that course pack and you could look at the info that's displayed here. Okay, there's nothing wrong with using whatever resources are made available to you. I have no problem with that. I do not call it cheating because I think anyone who is wanting to learn to read music should have and should be able to use all the resources and tools that are made available to them. Okay, so once again, I hope this has been helpful for you. And if you have any questions regarding the online text or regarding our e-learning site, just shoot me an email. Thanks, folks.
Okay, so hopefully those two things have given you a little bit more insight into our online text and how it's constructed, as well as our e-learning site and how it is constructed. If you recall, way back in the beginning at the introductory vid that I produced, I did show you there was the two sides to the story. One side was the e-learning, one side was the online text. Hopefully that was clarification as well. Okay, so let's also begin by talking about a couple of things with respect to grading. Please understand, your grade is, at this point, the grade on your online text is the most accurate representation of your grade. It shows the percentage of what you've completed. If you've been doing your assignments, it shows that. That's the most accurate representation of how you're doing. It is not the definitive, however. Remember, I don't grade on test scores or really any type of scores alone. I grade on effort and participation. Okay, so participation also involves participating in those online discussions, and there's going to be some more coming up very soon, so watch for those. But that's class participation. Okay, your grade is not reflected right now at this time on e-learning either. They're not transferable just yet. We are working on that so that when you complete an assignment, that the grade that you get on your assignment is brought into e-learning automatically and it's automatically presented to you. Unfortunately, at this time, we are not able to do that, but we are working on it. All you need to know at this point, though, is that whatever you're showing on your online text, that's the most accurate representation of how you're doing so far. But it is not your final grade, and it does not mean that, for example, if your online textbook is showing a C+, that doesn't mean you're getting a C+ for the course. It just means right now that's the work level that you're doing. That can be adjusted higher or lower, so please, just be patient. We are working on getting your grades transferable, but as you can imagine, there's a great deal that goes on in that process, and we certainly do not want to complicate it any further. So, all right. Do understand that the discussion topics are part of your grade. They are very much a part of your grade. So if you have yet to participate in the first discussion topic, which is introductions, which I'm guilty of, I haven't put my introduction up there yet. I promise I will, and you may comment on my post as well. I love it when people do. But if you have not already done that, you need to. There's still time, in other words, for you to do that. Our next topic, entitled "What Would I Hear?" is a cool topic. And let me give you a little bit of a background to that. We're currently looking at the mechanics of music, how music is put together, right? And we're looking at, in specific, how the notes are related to the piano keyboard, pitches, that is. We've learned, for example, that the musical alphabet starts on A and it ends on G, and then what happens? It repeats itself. There used to be an old adage that said if you know your ABCs up to G and you can count to 4, you can read music. Well, that's essentially true, actually. It's a good old adage. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, but just be aware that these are some very, very basic music theory principles that you're picking up right now. We are also going to be delving into the realm of composition. It's not going to happen for a bit yet, but we are going to be looking at that. So, music does not just involve the mechanics. I think you'd agree with that. Music does not just involve knowing what note names are, what note values are, what the staff is, what the keyboard is. There's a whole lot more to it, primarily because music is indeed an art form as well as a form of communication. So one of the things I try to do in the discussion topics is to give you an opportunity to express your knowledge and feelings of the music that you listen to. And so this is what this particular discussion topic entails. What would I hear, for example? And so let's lay out the story. For example, what if I were to get into your car right now, and you turn on the ignition? What's going to be playing on your car's sound system? Or what if you're walking down a hall and you're listening to your phone or your iPod or what have you? You've got your headphones in, and I happen to have my headphones, and I say, let me listen, and I plug in my headphones into your iPod. What am I going to hear? What am I going to hear? Now, I'm not asking this question for you to tell me what you think I want to hear. That's not what this is about. I really want the truth. I want to know, what is it that you're listening to and why? There's the big question. Why do you listen to what you listen to? Why is this important? Well, because it brings us back to what music is for. Again, I say music is an art form, absolutely. It's also a form of communication. Why do I say this? Well, it's fairly simple, actually. Think about it. I can go anywhere on the planet and to any country, and I can hand a person, if they are, classically trained, professionally trained musician, I can hand them a piece of music that I wrote here in the States, and they can perform it. They can play it. They don't need to speak English, and I don't need to speak Korean, for example. I can hand them a piece of music and we can communicate. That's phenomenal. Music transcends geographic boundaries in that respect. So what we listen to is often a reflection of our persona. It doesn't necessarily define us, right? It doesn't necessarily say who we are. It might, it could, but it doesn't have to. So be thinking along the lines as you're answering the question, well, what would happen? What was playing on my car on my way home today? Or what was playing on my iPod or what have you? If I go up there and look at my playlist, what kinds of things am I listening to? Try to narrow it down to one or two titles. I don't need to see your whole playlist. I think it's great that we all have these eclectic tastes, and indeed we do. But, just pick a moment in time where I might get in your car or I might plug my headphones in. What am I going to be listening to? What am I going to be hearing? And then tell me why. Why is it special to you? And the reasons do not have to be, they don't have to be these big ethereal thoughts. They can be very simple and plain. It can be just as simple as saying, because I like it. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But if you want to include more, like it speaks to me, or I really appreciate the rhythm, or I really appreciate the lyrics, or if it's an instrumental, I like to hear the trumpet here, or I like to hear the bass guitar here. That's what I'd like to hear. I'd like to know what it is that makes you like the music that you are listening to. Okay, so again, watch that keyboard vid, because that does give you some great advantage on how the keyboard is associated with things like whole steps and half steps. And then be aware that the next section coming up, the staff, will be happening on this Sunday. I believe it's June the 10th. Starts at 12 a.m. on Sunday, June the 10th. And whenever you're in doubt of when things are coming due, consult that detailed course calendar, because it has all of the information that you need. Okay, folks, I appreciate your attention to this. Again, if you're having any difficulties with the online text or any aspect of what we're doing here, please do get in touch with me, and I will do my best to resolve your issue. Have a great weekend, and we'll be talking to you shortly.
I'm a sentimental sap, that's all. What's the use of trying not to fall? I have no will, you've made your kill, 'cause you took advantage of me. I'm just like an apple on a bough, and you're gonna shake me down somehow. So what's the use? You've cooked my goose, 'cause you took advantage of me. I'm so hot and bothered that I don't know my elbow from my ear. I suffer something awful each time you go. It's much worse when you're near. Here am I with all my bridges burned, just a babe in arms where you're concerned. So lock the doors and call